Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Narrative versus reality. It's something that we talk a lot about, especially when analyzing the left. You know, they love to paint these narratives as if the right-wingers or conservatives, the GOP, is only out there looking out for the interest of big corporations and millionaires and the most successful people in society. They want to leave you, the little guy, behind. That's what they love to say. They love to paint Donald Trump's tax cuts as tax cuts simply for the wealthy, even though, based on most economic analysis, the majority of the actual benefit went to your average wage earners, your average middle-class people, who saved on average, I think, close to $2,000 a year, money that went into their pockets that increased their standard of living in a time where wages were rising and inflation was pretty flat. They love to paint this picture as if the Republican Party is the party of big banks and Wall Street and major corporations, when all of these major corporations are signing on to these ESG promises or ESG credit scores. All of them seem to be pushing the leftist image, and most of the corporate money, or at least a good chunk of it, is going straight to Democrat pockets. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is supported by grassroots small donations. In other words, I guess where I'm getting at is that the leftist narrative, especially on economics, is total BS. Joe Biden's taking victory laps now as inflation numbers are cooling down, pretty much as expected. Most of the predictions and what I've been saying is late 2023, we'll probably see inflation coming down. Joe's trying to take credit for it, and he's pushing this idea as though the economy is in such great shape thanks to, quote, Bidenomics. Well, it's a load of hogwash, as you might expect, and Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary showed up on Fox's morning show the other day, really putting it into perspective, and I just want to talk about this concept in a more general sense. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's start with the headline from Mediaite. Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary slams, quote, Bidenomics on Fox, starving small business in America.
The problem with the policies so far and the multiple bills, including the CHIPS Act and, of course, the Anti-Inflation Act, whatever you want to call it, is just massive spending, but it's the target of where that spending went. Here's the problem. Most of it's going to the S&P 500 companies. They're important. They're big employers in America. However, they only represent 40% of the economy. What we haven't seen as the unintended consequence that's now we're seeing is that we're starving small business in America. We throw billions to Intel and nothing to a guy in Champaign-Urbana who's running a shop with 58 employees. His cost of capital, because of these rapid rate hikes, has gone through the moon. It went from maybe 6 or 7% now to 20%. He can't raise any capital because the regional banks have stopped lending to him as they wait to see what the new liquidity rules are. This is why I was on the Hill yesterday. I was banging the drum up and down the hall saying, everybody, let's wake up to what's happening to my small companies. I got 34-plus companies. They can't raise a dime. There's no Bidenomics for them. They have no capital, and that's a big problem, and it's manifesting itself. Those are the people that are looking for cheaper toothpaste and all the issues that are going around inflation. Core inflation is not down. CPI, yes, but core inflation, the real inflation that hurts a small individual that's trying to live off $58,000, they're getting killed. And this will show up in the polls. This will become political. But we've got to save small business right now. We have to do everything in our power to make sure they get access to capital. This is a problem that's only 6 to 8 weeks old. You talk to anybody running a small business between 5 and 500 employees, they cannot raise any money. That's bad economic policy. And that's because Biden's focused only on the big guys.
You know, this is a key concept that people really need to start grasping, especially if you're on the left. You have been convinced that government involvement over the last however many decades has done so much to uplift and help people. It's a novel concept, I'm sure it makes you feel good, but have you ever taken 5 seconds to take a step back to think objectively, looking at the macro, looking at the facts that are basically obvious right in front of your eyes? You know, let's use a tweet from our friend Dr. Based on Twitter, who posted a tweet from your typical leftist who writes, I feel the need to explain something to the generation that does not remember or never saw a world where one person with a high school education could support a family of 5 comfortably. This was real for millions of US families. It was normal. It was stolen from you. And Dr. Based writes, it amazes me that leftists will say stuff like this, but simultaneously support everything that makes such a quality of life impossible. People don't seem to be able to see that the more government has evolved, and the more importantly, the more government has involved itself into everyday matters, into business, government's policy, control of monies, what have you, the worse the standard of living becomes. Of course, technology makes life better in a myriad of different ways, but the overall standard of living, the basic standard, continues to drop. The more government expands, the bigger government becomes, the poorer your average American is. The less attainable basic standards have become. And of course, the typical leftist cop-out is, oh, evil capitalism. That isn't the case at all. The problem is crony capitalism. And frankly, I'd argue the problem is crony capitalism. And you can argue that crony capitalism, government-involved capitalism, is quasi-socialism. The bigger government gets, the more paths towards corruption there are. The more and more power is taken away from your average individual and put in the hands of corrupt bureaucrats doing the bidding of major corporations instead of fighting for the average person's interest. It's called corporatocracy. And I don't care how many times the Democrats pretend that they're for the people, they're for democracy. They're not. They're for the major corporations who are the real puppet masters behind the scenes. You know, in 2020, when the Democrats were shutting down your random small business with 5 employees just trying to put food on the table for your family, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't a coincidence that McDonald's, big box stores, major retailers, major corporations were given the green light to stay open. They were deemed as essential, and you were deemed as, let's just say it, a peasant. Bidenomics is working. Bidenomics is working. Yet all the statistics that we see are either fraudulent or to the benefit of the elite ruling class. Not you. Your wages have been going down. You're being crushed under the weight of increased cost of financing. And slowly but surely we're seeing an incredible transfer of wealth like we've never seen before. We're for the little guy, the politicians say. But all the policies that we've seen, not only over the last couple of years, but over the last couple of decades, have led to one thing and one thing alone. An incredible transfer of wealth from the middle class to the connected elite few. And I'm not here saying that it's a uniquely Democrat phenomenon, because it's not. Republicans are guilty of this as well, but Republicans aren't as misleading. The Democrats are. The Democrats tell you, I got your back, little guy. I'm with you. And then they shaft you. They absolutely crush you. They crush the middle class. And then come back, well, what's going on? What happened? What's wrong? How'd things go so badly? Oh, it's those evil Republicans and those evil corporations' fault. Vote for us and we'll fix it. And the cycle continues. You know, follow the money, follow the money. It's like I said in the intro. Supposedly, Republicans are the ones not looking out for the little guy and doing the bidding of major corporations, but all the major corporations are behind every single uniparty establishment politician that you can think of. There's only a couple grassroots politicians. Donald Trump happens to be one, Bernie Sanders happens to be another, and is it any surprise that those are possibly 2 of the most demonized politicians in the current political landscape? No, it's no surprise, it's purposeful. They cause crises, they impoverish you, and then they sweep in, they come in, pretending to be the glorious saviors of the day. They're the ones who did it to you. You know, we're at an all-time low in morale. People don't believe in themselves anymore. They don't believe in the system. They don't believe in the American dream, the ability to do something. And it's because that dream has been purposely crushed. That door of opportunity has been turned into a mouse hole by design, because that creates the perfect environment for them to sell something to you. Oh, crushing debt, crushing inflation, a cruddy jobs market, wages aren't keeping up. Oh, well, I don't know what you're gonna do. Better vote for us. We'll give you stimulus checks. We'll go after those evil rich people that are literally funding our campaigns, and we'll make them pay up, and then we'll give that money to you because you deserve that money. Wake up and smell the coffee. This uniparty globalist dream wants to crush the little guy, crush small business. They want oligarchy, controlled major entities in every single field, a reduction of choice, a streamlined conveyor belt society that can be easily controlled. The word is simply demoralization. They want you demoralized, hopeless, lost, confused, unable to think for yourself, unable to believe in yourself, and most importantly, they want you reliant. That's not the way. That's not what people should strive for. And you know, it's funny because that kind of was the ethos of Donald Trump's campaign launch back in 2016. Let's make America great again. Make it a prosperous place where people can do for themselves, get the best out of themselves, and of course, the end result of that is the country rising progressing to a higher level. And it's confusing how something that was meant to be inspirational, something that was looking back and saying, hey, we can do better than this, instead was viewed as hateful, racist, I mean, whatever it is. It's a completely backwards way of thinking. There's a psychological rot in the West where we've accepted this new status quo, you know, kind of like Obama used to say back in the day, that sustained 2% plus growth is unsustainable. This acceptance of mediocrity and frankly downward decline, this depressive lack of vision, lack of inspiration outlook to feed into all the doom and gloom, an entire political worldview based on pessimism and depression, and then to turn around and vote for the people who did it to you. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Anyways, before I start running in circles and saying the same thing over and over again, I'm sure you guys understand it. I'm sure you guys feel it more importantly. There's a lack of inspiration, a lack of vision. It's the demoralization of a nation. And hopefully we find a way to turn it all around and get rid of this pathetic mental rot. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know, we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.